Welcome, everyone, to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. My name is Nick Clark, and I am your host for today's show, an exciting show. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup Shop, based out of Folsom, California, and available anywhere for some amazing yoga and off-the-chart community connection. Check us out at spotteddogyoga.com. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is dedicated to bringing you the awesome people and experiences that are meant to inspire you to live your life to your fullest potential. And today we have an awesome person who is joining us for our podcast named Glenn Bisquera. Over the last 10 years, Glenn has become one of my best friends, mentors, and a person who inspires me to be just a better person. Glenn is a family guy. He can cook some serious brisket, let me tell you. He does yoga all the time. He's a big-time pickleball player. He is an awesome dad. We'll talk a little bit about that. And he's a granddad, grandpapa. Glenn, welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. It's so great to have you, man.
Thank you so much, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here and to see your face.
It's a pleasure to see your face, too. Your face is looking mighty shiny right there in the studio. Glenn's hanging out in the studio doing the interview. How's the vibe in there right now, man?
It's pretty chill right now. There's nobody here. I just finished a class, had a great class, had some great people in it, and I loved it. It was fun. It's always a joy to be here.
Yeah, it really is a neat place with a great vibe. And it changes, it's I talked about it a little bit in our podcast with Nikki, but it's amazing how there's so much happening in the world outside of the studio, like all the cars in the parking lot, all the busyness. But then once you come into Spotted Dog, it's like you're in your own little bubble, in your own little world, isn't it?
That's exactly, when I retired from teaching 6 years ago, my teaching group was my community, my social. And then when I got involved in Spotted Dog, I'm going, I like this. This is a good, it's nice to be around people who are positive. And we all know there's things going on in this world that are crazy, but at least you have a respite here in this studio. You can practice, you can connect with people who are of like mind. And it's just a joy to be here. I really enjoy it's joyful when I come in. I don't know how else to put it.
That's really neat. Well, let's talk a little bit about your teaching career. What kind of a teacher were you? How long did you teach? Where did you teach? What did you love about teaching? Tell us all about it.
So I was I had a degree in physical education, and we moved up here. My wife and I, Mary, moved up here in 1985, and I was looking for a teaching job. She was pregnant with our older son, Darian, and I ended up teaching at an elementary school 5 days a week. And, it was fun. I enjoyed it for 4 or 5 years. But the elementary school kids, there was more disciplining, or there was more raising them than there was just having an interaction and connection with them. And so I kind of got, I don't want to say tired of it, but I'm going, this isn't the level for me. So a friend of mine told me about a position at a middle school. This was Sylvan Middle School. I taught here in San Juan Unified for over 30 years. And I started at Sylvan Middle School. And as soon as I got to that level, at the middle school level, was 7th and 8th at that time, I'm going, I like this. And,
Nice.
just talking to different people at different times, it's like, say, oh man, congratulations, man. How did you do that? How were you able to work with those kind of kids? I'm going, they're just kids, but they had the energy. They had the energy to perform and do the things you ask them to do. They weren't quite as sophisticated as the high school kids, where they can manipulate you and, get out of anything. And, plus high school kids are way bigger than me. So were the junior high kids. But, I could still joke with them and they would get my jokes, or I could kid with them and they would get it. It was a nice mix of kind of working them through the difficult time that they are going through as adolescents. And, I always kept in mind, and that's what really gave me such a positive attitude. When I hear about teaching and other teachers, we tend to focus, myself included, we tend to talk about maybe the 5 or 10% that are kind of dinking around or being knuckleheads in the classroom, when you have the other 90% of the kids who gave me a lot of hope of how the world's going to be. And so I
Hmm.
would always come in with like, it's so good to see everybody. Of course, I have to deal with this knucklehead, but it's okay. Give him another chance. It's a new day. It's not the end of the world. So it was okay. And that's kind of how you know, I, um, I looked at every day, enjoyed every day I worked there. Um, and it was a difficult decision to retire, but I made the choice and I don't have any regrets.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you did some outdoor programs too, didn't you? We've talked about that with youth.
Outdoor programs. Some of the outdoor I used to have a fourth period class, and it was my accelerated PE class. But we used to go do outdoor runs in the neighborhood. I would never do that with the regular classroom because I'd be losing kids all the time. But with these were kids. The kids who were in this class had to be recommended. There was an interview process, so I knew that they were reasonable kids. But we'd go on off-campus runs. We'd go to the Sac State ropes course. Different things like that. At one time, I used to take them over to Cal Fit and do activities over there. Give them a worksheet, like a fitness worksheet, so they have to do certain things on different machines. And I had a lot of flexibility with being able to do those kind of things um, at that school. And then as the school demographics changed, it wasn't as it wasn't as easy to do, just demographically and also logistically.
Yeah. You know, I remember one time you were talking about a friend that had, I don't know if it was a friend or not, but they had like a place near a cabin near Tahoe, or maybe near a lake up in Tahoe, where they used to take kids out and do adventures and different
Yeah,
things like that. What is that place, that lake?
it's gosh darn it. It's part of the San Juan Unified School District, and it's called Camp Winters.
Oh yeah. Did you
It,
used to take kids up there?
I did not,
Okay.
but Mary, my wife, she worked there when she was in high school
Oh
back in
really?
the '70s, and so the people she met there, we were still friends with them. And the director just retired just a couple of years ago from that camp. But that's a school. It's based through the school or summer school. So during the summer, they'd have summer camp, week-long programs, and then they would also bring in group people on weekends.
It's
But
so neat. I think,
yeah,
well, right there in Northern California, it is.
I'm just keeping the lights. Sorry.
Yeah, if you're watching the lights in the studio are on timers, and so I noticed in one of the other interviews that the lights went off in the middle. So I told Glenn that he needs to keep stretching and moving as he gets through his interview so that the lights don't turn off on him. That's so funny. Well, I mean, no better place to be stretching and moving,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. You're right.
What I was gonna say is I think right there in Folsom in Northern California area, there's so many wonderful places to get out and to adventure. And I mean, just in the United States and right in the Western United States, there's so many great places to get out and to adventure. And the thing that I wanted to touch on today and talk to you about, Glenn, is the power and importance of adventure, of getting outside and doing hikes and getting fresh air and doing all the things that push you outside of your comfort zone. I feel like it's really an important part of life, and I think that there's not very many people that really absorb it and do it the way that you do it. So tell me, how has adventure played a role in your life, and why do you think it's so important? What do you get from getting outdoors and doing all those amazing adventures that you do?
you know, we we'll just go down to the river locally because we live pretty close to it, and it's amazing what you can see if you look. You and you can, and what you see when it's so peaceful out there. You don't run into anybody because we go back on the horse trails. It could be herons, it could be egrets, it could be geese, it could be snakes. There's tons of birds. Mary's always looking for turtles for whatever reason. But
Isn't there a place down on Natoma that they call Turtle Alley? Have you ever heard of that?
there could be. I mean, yeah,
Mary needs to know
I don't
about
know all
Turtle
the names.
Alley.
Yeah, I don't know all the names, but there's places where they just hang out on these on the logs, and there's places where the berry bushes grow over into the water. So we've gone back on our paddle boards or canoes, or borrowed a kayak and picked the blueberries or the blackberries, excuse me, that come out. Mary's made pies from them and different cakes and stuff. So it's just kind of cool where what's available right here in our in our backyard. And so that always it just gives me again another place that gives me joy. And I like the peacefulness and the solidarity, even though I'm with my wife. Just being able to walk and look and smell and just be able to use other senses besides cars rushing around you and kind of being on edge every time you're driving. So it's a great place to kind of unwind and to recoup energy, re-energize.
Yeah. I mean,
We
I
did
find
that.
that for me, it's like, it can be so easy to get caught up in the doing of life. And I respect people for the way that they work and how hard they work, because I know it takes a lot to survive and to provide for your family and to put, a roof over your family's head and to stay healthy and to eat healthy and do all the things that are necessary, for us to survive and to thrive. I know it takes hard work, and at least my personal experience of working is that I can sometimes get so into my work that I forget to take care of myself. I forget to adventure. I forget to go outside and take those deep breaths and whatnot. And then because I forget to do that, actually my work is affected. I don't do my work as well. I don't do my parenting as well. I don't do my family life as well. And I really like, because there's this imbalance. Have you found that as well in your life?
I Yes, and I know that when I was working, I would because the school schedule it's so intense as the day goes on. Just you're adjusted to bells. But the schools I used to work at, I was able to ride my bike to work. And so, I'd leave at like 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work. It only took me about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, but I go on the bike trail, for about 7.5 miles and then 2.5 miles on the side streets. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so, it's able for me to kind of energize for the day, think about what I'm going to do for the day. And I made that a really a priority in my life when I was working. And even when I was working in Citrus Heights area, I'd take streets where I didn't have to go on too many major streets. And I trusted the drivers back then. But, the I find places that had large enough bike trails where or bike shoulders that I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, that was important to me. And then when I at school, I'd always work, do the things the kids were doing. So that would keep me active. And, I'm a physical person anyway. I couldn't see myself in a desk job or anything like that and sitting. So my job was it was fun. I could play with the kids. I can be a role model for the kids. I can discipline the kids in such a way that's not going to, hopefully not affect them for the rest of their lives. So, yeah, I mean, I think I was pretty even keel over the 30 years that I worked, that I was working.
And how did that carry over to your family life? You've, for those of you that have met Glenn and his family, I think you'll agree with me in that his family is very even keeled and connected. Y'all are very tight, interwoven in such an amazing way, and I have a lot of respect for that. And I'm curious, like how did you bring your work life and your personal life together and create the balance at home?
That's a good question because it seems so long ago that I had to do that because my kids are older now. They're in their 30s. They're adults. I love them to death. I loved them back then, but it wasn't always easy. But we would keep them and we would be involved. We, meaning my wife and I, would be involved with their soccer, their basketball, their swim. So if Mary was taking Dorian to soccer practice, I'd be taking Devin, or vice versa. So we were always kind of involved in what they were doing. And because when I grew up, I used to be in sports all the time, but my parents never went to anything that I did. And so I'm going, I don't want to be that kind of a parent. I want to be involved in my parents' or my kids' growth. So Devin and I were in scouts. My younger son and I were at scouts. I was a scoutmaster. So he was able to get his eagle. Dorian never really wanted to get into scouting. He didn't like the uniforming. He didn't want to, wear a uniform. And I totally get that, and we didn't push it on him, but I know he would have loved the activities that we did, the camping and just all the outings that we did. So I'd be as much as I can involved in their activities, either as a coach, like a scoutmaster. We would do things for when they were in high school in the booster club. So we'd be always supportive that way. um, work the bingo halls so that so the sports teams can have money and things like that. So
Yeah.
and fortunately, I was I could ride my bike, so that was my exercise so I felt like I had that side of things done. If I didn't have the biking, like I have yoga, I don't know how I would be. If I would be more I can't see myself being too intense because I'm not really. I'm fairly calm, but things used to bug me inside, and I definitely feel more settled as
Yeah.
more.
After you got some sort of a workout in or
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot, it helps settle you. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that, well, I know from our demographic for this podcast that there's a couple segments of people. Both of them, I believe, really relate to you here in this conversation that we're having around family life, right? There's one demographic of people who are having kids, much like your sons. And um, then there's also the demographic of people whose kids are graduating from high school and they're moving on. I mean, I've seen so many different kids, even kids that I taught at Spotted Dog Yoga, 5-10 years ago, who are graduating from high school. So I just am curious, what would be so I feel like your tip for people who are with having kids and just in the beginning stages of parenting and whatnot is to get involved. That's what it sounds like from what you're saying. And then moving forward as your kids got older and as they graduated high school and they moved on to create their own life, how is it that you've maintained such a wonderful relationship with your family? And what tips do you have for people who are in that space right now in their life?
For me, they're always going to be my sons, but I have to allow them to be their own person, and I can't. I try not to get too involved in decisions that they make. If they make a decision or if they ask me about something, I will give them my feedback, but I don't necessarily share my opinions on everything that they do because they have to figure things out for themselves. I let them be who they want to be, for the most part. And if it was something I think that would be injurious to themselves or others, I would definitely say something. But like during the high school and early college days, we had to say quite a bit. But as they've gotten older, I love having them around. We have really, I think, I just have a good relationship with my boys, and I kind of I don't want to think about what occurred in the past. We talk about it jokingly, but the way they're moving forward, I'm just so proud of both of them and what they've done, what they've achieved, and not according to me, according to how their life has been, according to the decisions they made and the choices that they made. And they're both, I'm just very proud of both of them.
Do you think that that's kind of a natural progression as a parent to as your kids grew older, to just let them spread their wings and to give them the faith and the trust of being a young adult? I'm in a place, right, where my kids are 5 and 3, and quite honestly, like all the time, Katie and I are like, don't do that, stop that, you don't want to do that, and then I'm also like, wow, am I saying that too much? But then, I don't want them to fall off of the countertop and split their head open because they're
No, right,
trying to get a
right.
lollipop or something. So
I
do
mean,
you feel like that's kind of natural? Just as they get older, you start to develop more trust and faith in them, and then you kind of let them spread their wings?
well, now whatever they decide to do, it's on them.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because when they became 18, and I don't know why this age had anything to do with it. Well, I think part of it because they're adult, and so whatever. I mean, as an age, they're an adult. In their heads, they weren't quite adult-ish, but they would make choices, but it's going to affect you. Whatever choice you make, whether I agree with or not, it can affect you, and it could affect everybody who's in contact with you. So think about that before you do that. So for some reason, when they turned 18, they become a technical adult. It's like there was a little bit of relief for me because I'm going, hey man, that's his problem, man. He made this stupid choice, and we've all made stupid choices, but you know, they'll have to figure it out after they do something like that, or whatever they do, whatever they did. So I don't know
Yeah.
why that 18 kind of was that tipping point, but yeah, up until that point, I mean, we knew where they were going to be. We wanted to know where they were going to be. We got them a phone when they were driving, and now that's when they were driving. This is 16. Nowadays kids have phones all the time, but we they could call us if there was any emergency. We want to be available. So they don't seem to not want to be around us. So I think we did something right. So, and I think they like they like coming over and hanging out, and yeah, we enjoy each other's company, because I'm always interested in what they do. And they're young and they're doing all sorts of cool stuff. So I like it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so awesome, man. Well, you don't need acknowledgement from me. I think the greatest acknowledgement you could ever get is the way that you are able to relate with your kids. And I just want to let you know and your family know how much we appreciate you as people. You're just wonderful people. You're wonderful people. And yeah, we love you, man. And so neat to hear that you have such a great connection with them, and that you have now you have grandbabies. How's it being? What do they call you, Papa or
So
Papa G, or what do they call you, huh?
well, neither one can really talk well, but they call me
What are they going to call you?
Lolo. So that's in
Say it
Filipino,
again. Sorry, I blanked you out.
Lolo, Lolo, Lolo.
Lolo.
Yeah, so that's grandpa in Filipino. So
Oh,
it's for some of you, I'm half Filipino. Not that I called my grandparents Lolo or anything like that, but we did spend some time over there, so we know that um, that's what they call grandparents, uh, grandfathers. And they call grandmothers Lola, but Mary's not going by Lola; she's going by Nona, which is more Italian,
that's
right?
right.
So I go by Lolo. And so
Well, can,
our granddaughter, lo, 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 she's saying all that kind of stuff. And Jackson, who's only 3 months, isn't saying anything, but he's adorable. So it'll be fun. It's a new chapter, and I never thought I would be that sentimental about having a grandbaby, but it's pretty special, pretty darn special.
yeah, congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Few things I want to touch on before I let you go here. Uh, One of them is yoga. How long have you been teaching yoga now, Glenn?
I think 3.5.
3.5 weeks?
3.5 years. I
Yeah,
think
you have been teaching a lot.
let's see, 2000. I think I think I started at the end of 2008. Oh, maybe it's 5 years. I don't know.
Kind
40.
of like all
No,
blends
no, wait,
into
that
each
can't be
other.
right. 18, 19. I think I started in end of 2019. So it'd be 4 years in December. Yeah.
Got it. What do you love about teaching yoga, man?
Well, I love the community. I've already talked about that. I just enjoy coming in and seeing everybody come in and to talking with them and making that connection. And I know that this practice works if you are committed to it. And I know that this practice works outside of your life if you're committed to it and use the tools that you learn on the mat, which is hard to, not everybody can put the two together, but what you do on your mat is what you do outside their mat, off the mat. And so I really believe that, so I just try to share my energy with the people who are in front of me. They are there for a reason. Um, I just try to get them to work at, they say, oh, that was a tough class. I go, no, that was you. You're the ones who do it. I only give you the poses. It's you that makes it as tough as you want to make it. So I just, it's just, I like it. And everybody feels like I do, $1,000,000 afterwards, right? There's never been a practice where I've regretted being in the practice. It may not feel good. I may not have done stuff, like I'd done the previous day or previous practice, but I always feel wonderful. And I just, it's like, I feel like $1,000,000 every time I finish.
And then every time he finishes a certain amount of classes, he signs up for another program with us. You've done a lot of programs with us, Glenn.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Well, I like this, the connection, right? Different people go into different programs, and it's always fun to get to know different people differently in a different light, besides in practicing yoga. So
yeah, and ultimately I feel like the people bring out the best in us, and when you can be around community doing a program like we facilitate at Spotted Dog Yoga, where you're in your body, where you're connected and you're present, and where you're doing self-development work, inner work, then you can share it with people, and people start to see like, oh wow, you're not all that different from me, and I'm not all that different from you,
right.
and wow, like there's a lot of similarities, and I can learn a lot from you, and you can learn a lot from me, and then it just turns into this really neat cohesion that I think is ultimately also the reason why I love facilitating programs and being a participant in programs, is because I get to know people on a totally different level than I would ever get to
Right.
know anyone just off the street,
No, it's so true. And and people, they've, they're comfortable when they come in, and my goal is to make them feel comfortable, whether they're new to yoga or not. And and they just work at their own level. One of the things that when going through this program, going through yoga itself, is like I had to accept myself how I am. I'm not going to be able right now. I'm not able to do certain things that others are able to do, and I can't be down on myself because I can't do it. I just have to say I'm going to work towards it. And it's like the saying, yoga is not about the pose, it's about the journey, right? And so that's what I always keep in mind. Yeah, I'm not there, but yet the more practice I put in, and maybe I'll never get there, wherever that there is, but it's okay. I'm enjoying the journey, and that's what's important to me.
Yeah, it seems
Yeah,
to me like you're enjoying the journey, man. You very
I,
much move around life in a present way.
I,
Um, and then one last thing I want to talk to you about is our adventure program. Glenn and his family joined us for our first SDY adventure in Idaho 2 years ago. And then this year they joined us in Sedona for an awesome adventure. They seem to me like they're really awesome. Each time they were awesome, but they just keep getting better. What would you say your experience of Spotted Dog Yoga Adventures has been?
well, we went back the second year. We signed up as soon as we could, and it's probably the locate. I mean, location has a lot to do with it, but really, we're in Sedona. We're practicing yoga by a creek. Who couldn't?
Sweet.
Who couldn't love that, right? I mean, you can hear the water running by, and you're going, and all these people are doing, just enjoying it, and you can't beat it. The activities, they were different, and because each environment offered something different, but it was it was fun, you know, and
You know, one of my favorite experiences, it wasn't directly in a retreat, but it was before the retreat in Idaho when you came up and we went
We went
fishing.
fishing. Yeah.
Yeah, we went fishing on the North Fork or the South Fork of the Boise. I can't remember. And do you remember it was like so early in the morning and you could the light was just starting to come up, and all of a sudden there was the massive owl in the middle of the
Yeah.
road that we dang near hit. I mean, we missed the owl.
Not
The
we.
thing was
You were
enormous.
you were driving. I did. I was a passenger, but it was huge. It was
Oh,
huge.
it was crazy. Like I don't even know if we figured out what kind of an owl was that big. Do you have any idea? What kind of owl is that big? A big horned owl?
Big horn owl. They're big. You
I
know,
mean,
that thing
I
was
guess that's
huge.
why they're named that way. That,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, I don't know, but it was huge, and it was well, and was eating. It was probably eating roadkill, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I
You know,
think so
we
too.
didn't go back and check, but
That was one of my favorite experiences though, Glenn, to be able to be out in nature with you, disconnected from everything except for you, and have an experience like that. And I feel like that just brought us closer and closer, man. I really appreciate you taking the time sharing yourself on Play Hard and Love Big Radio, and always sharing yourself in the studio and in the community. Everyone, if you are anywhere close to Spotted Dog Yoga, check out our schedule at spotteddogyoga.com and go in and take a class from Glenn. And even, I mean, he's there practicing all the time too. What days of the week and times do you usually practice, Glenn?
um, I'll go in the morning. I'll go in the afternoon. It doesn't really matter. If I'm not
Yeah.
busy, I'll go in.
Well,
That's
you might get lucky and see Glenn at any point in time, and I mean it lucky because
yeah.
you're an amazing guy, man, and we really appreciate you. Is there anything that you would like to share with the community, or with the Play Hard and Love Big community before you sign out today?
You know, I think I just piggyback on what Nick said. Is that it's an incredible community, and just to go in there, come in here, and to experience it, you'll know what he means, you know what I mean, and you know what brings us back to this community. It's very unusual. And I've been into other yoga communities where the welcoming wasn't as great with participants as well as the yoga teachers. And this one is just, I mean, I am biased. I work here, but this is how I felt from the very beginning 8 years ago, whenever it was I started. It's always been welcoming. It's always, you work at your own level. There's no judgment on what you can do and what you cannot do. It's a very accepting environment, and it's nothing but positivity in my mind.
Right on, my man. Well, thank you very much, Glenn Bisquera, and thank you everyone for checking out Play Hard and Love Big Radio. Do us a favor and subscribe to the show. Also, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe there. We put our full video podcast up on to YouTube. Come in, take a class, spotteddogyoga.com. We do it online if you're not in the Sacramento area, or we do it in person all the time. We have stand-up paddleboard yoga. It starts this coming weekend. We'd love to get to know you in any way, shape, or form. Again, thank you very much, Glenn Bisquera. Everyone, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you,
Play
Nick.
hard, love big. Peace out, man. Ow, way to keep moving, baby.
Stay light on.